Okay, I'll start then. Hello everybody, and welcome to a few words from Teresa and I and the rest of the family about my dad. We're all gathered here today for Victor Louis Benoit, who was born in Rosa on the 4th of September 1937 to Helen Doraville and Vivian Benoit. He was originally named Louis Victor, but he had a cousin with the same names, and they were soon swapped, and he was always known as Victor. Dad was brought up in Cork Street by his grandmother, who we called Auntie Maud, and other family members, his father, sister Rosemary, and his mother Uriel Doraville, whom he called Nenin, and his cousin Amelia Etienne, known as Millet. He often talked about the scrapes he would get into with his friend Jim, who lived with them, and how they'd sneak out in the backyard to go and play cricket at the botanical gardens, and how Auntie Maud would invariably catch them. Dad went to Rosa Boys School and to the academy. He took his studies seriously and was always respectful of the strict Catholic teachings. After his schooling, he first went to work in construction, building bridges and houses, until he turned 18 and headed up to England with three friends. Dad always said he had a choice of England or Canada, and he chose England because of the football that was played here, Canada's loss. He landed in Plymouth in 1958 and made his way to London with his friends. Sure enough, he was enticed by the football and became a regular at Craven Cottage, home of Fulham Football Club. He devotedly supported them through thick and thin, and they've just managed to get back into the Premiership, so we're pleased with that. The lads first lived in Earl's Court in London, and Dad began work at Harrods in Knightsbridge in a garage fixing cars. He represented Harrods as part of their cricket team, which gave him great pride. He trained at night school to qualify as a welder, and then took a part-time job at Pyrene on the Great West Road near Brentford, which is where I ended up living for quite a while when we were in London. He worked the night shift for many years, making firefighting equipment, and said after he would never work night shifts again because it messed up his body. Dad met my mum, Mary Elizabeth Welch, in London when he was 20 and she was 14. They were together for 46 years until Mum passed in 2003. We were so proud of them, and they overcame all the hurdles of a mixed marriage during those early years. When they were first married in 1964, they moved down to Southampton, where we were both born, Teresa in 1965 and me, the youngest, in 1968.
My baby brother.
A great childhood we had. Both our parents loved each other very much and worked hard to give us a good home and an upbringing filled with education and sporting opportunities. We were loved and cherished, and extremely lucky. We had two parents who were devoted to us. Dad worked a very long term, 2 jobs before he retired in 2001. The first of these was at a factory called Dimplex, which made electric heating and ventilation, and then he moved on to British Aerospace in 1977, where he signed the Official Secrets Act because he helped manufacture fighter jets as a chemical etcher. He worked long hours, including overtime and weekends, to give us a good lifestyle, and he was never off sick. He snapped his Achilles tendon playing squash with me. His weekly games of squash with his cousin Malcolm Marley, who lived in Southampton too, were set in stone, and every Tuesday they played each match to the death. And then he'd come home and complain how Marley used to cheat him, and that the game he should have won, and mum suffered. I'll now hand over to my sister.
Okay, thanks, Peg. Mum tragically passed away in 2003 at the age of 59. It was a truly traumatic time for our family, but Dad really did come into his own as a granddad to Louis Michael, Elizabeth Scarlett, Yvette, Evie, Sophie, Oscar Robert and Dominic Robert. He verbalised that he would try his best to make up for the loss of their grandmother. He was patient and he was kind, and he was loved by them all. Elizabeth and Dominic lived close in Southampton and saw Dad all the time, but he paid attention to all his grandchildren equally, never forgetting birthdays and always engaging with them about the things they all loved, namely football, music and food. His grandsons Louis and Oscar are staunch Fulham supporters like their granddad. And whether in Southampton or Yorkshire, he attended many of his grandsons' football matches to cheer them on. He was father-in-law to Teresa's husband, oh, that's me, to my husband Bob and Craig's wife Emma Jane, both of whom he loved and respected, and in turn they called him Dad and treated him like their own father. He'd come round to our house every Sunday for lunch and disappear with Bob's newspapers and Sunday magazines, along with anything else he could procure, like DVDs or maybe some nice dessert leftovers. Bob would shout after him at the door, "Why don't you take the shirt off my back?" Dad would laugh and drive off. But what of his personality? Oh my goodness, he was to be admired. He was strong mentally and physically. He used to tell me that the only thing I should cry about was someone close being in ill health. Not for meaningless things like whether a house sale was going through. Yes, he did stop me bawling in my tracks. For the last 17 years of his life, he religiously walked 3 times a week for over 10 miles every time. He'd set out around 6 a.m. and get home between 9 and 10 to have his fruit for lunch, a nap, time spent doing his Sudoku puzzles, and then make his tea. Always healthy, always well cooked because he was a great cook. He'd bring a feast of chicken, macaroni cheese and lots of delicious dishes to family events, and he made the best lime punch and coconut punch in the world. He was resistant to change though. A Star Trek fanatic from the 1960s, he absolutely refused to watch the remakes. We would argue and argue about giving it a chance, but he wouldn't give in. In fact, any remake film inspired a lecture about how they could never top the original, how the actors weren't up to the job, and that nothing new was ever written anymore.
Where are we?
He listened.
He listened to his music from the past, Dominican songs, especially The Mighty Sparrow, which I was listening to this morning. Country and Western, Elton John, Simon and Garfunkel, but he had no time for any modern music, with no beat or depth. And although he did always listen with an open mind, with an open ear. Where are we, Trees? Lost the page.
Open ear and embrace anything decent.
And embrace anything decent. He had a great sense of humour with a high-pitched giggle. Or if he was really uncontrollable, with laughter, his face would crease up and he would laugh, would come from the depths of his body. His observational humour was always spot on, and he would tell a story with description that would make us all cry with laughter. Dad was kind and extremely generous and easygoing. He was able to think outside the box and consider solutions that others couldn't think of, and he was always very calm.
After Mum passed, we were all so happy when Dad and Ruby Blanchard became companions. Mum had said to Dad that she hoped he would find love again, and he did. Ruby has been a blessing for him and to all our family. When Ruby came up to England and we saw how happy and content our dad was with her, it was extremely comforting. For 15 years, she has brought happiness into Dad's life again, and we would like to thank her for her love and devotion to him. He loved her very much too, and we're forever grateful for the care she provided at the end of his life. Finally, no eulogy can truly describe what a wonderful man he was. Funny, generous, clever and strong, utterly devoted to his family. He loved us all so much and received cascades of love back from his children, grandchildren, brothers, sisters, nieces and nephews.
He didn't finally succumb without a fight. For 4 years he did everything he could to stay with us. He was strong as an ox mentally and physically, and he looked after himself as a man in his 9th decade that was admired by someone of half his age.
We were, and we always will be, so proud of him. He was the best of men. Rest in eternal peace, Dad. Thank you.
Saying goodbye to a loved member of our family is difficult, but I'd like to say thank you to my granddad for so many things. Firstly, for my family, my dad has followed in your footsteps, and if I turn out to be half the man he is, I'll be happy. Thank you for my auntie, who I know thought the world of you, cousins who are like siblings, and for my brother and sister. I cannot thank you enough. I see that a lot of your passions and traits have manifested in me, and I'm very proud to say that. I'll follow Fulham till I die, even when we are inevitably relegated from the Premiership next season. As I've gotten older, my love for the outdoors and walking has grown. I wish I could walk with you one more time, but I think I will think about you every time I go hiking. I'm so grateful to God that you were able to watch me play football. Right from when I was first kicking football to scoring goals in front of our whole family. I'm so glad you were there for all of it. Lastly, and most importantly, I'd like to thank you for the person you were. You were strong and courageous in what you did in life, a family man and a great granddad. It's hard to let go of someone we all cherished, but your memory will live on and we will always feel your presence. Rest in peace, Granddad.
Granddad, you impacted my life in more ways than I could ever begin to describe. You were the most decent, giving man I've ever known. You always put your family first. You had such a wicked sense of humour. I can still hear your laughs with Mum in the conservatory, and it brings me such comfort. I wish I could hold on to you forever. You truly were one of the best. All the cousins absolutely adored you. You made us laugh, and we always knew that when we were with you, that we were so loved. You have taught me the true meaning of being strong, and I can promise you, Grandad, that I will hold on to our memories for a lifetime. My children will know you because you are absolutely unforgettable. Although I'm heartbroken, I will continue to live, love and laugh as I know it's what you would want. And I will raise a glass to you on every birthday and every Christmas till the end of my days, because nothing will be the same without you. Thank you, Grandad. Thank you for being the best friend and the best grandparent I could have ever asked for. You gave us everything and I'm so grateful. I cannot express how lucky I feel to have had you in my life, and you are with me wherever I go. You truly made everything better. I miss you more than I could ever express. I can't wait for the day that we reunite in heaven. You can introduce me to Nana again and we can catch her up on all the fun we had while she was gone. Someday we'll be laughing and chatty again, and that really does keep me going. You deserve to live forever.
Grandad for 25 years. I just wanted to share a few words about my first meeting with him. I think my first meeting with him was at a family dinner, and I was sat there. I was told to wait till people serve themselves, and I'll never forget. I think it was your mum that said, "You better dig in, otherwise they're going to take all the food." And Craig and Dad were having a fight about who had the most potatoes. But the one thing I will always remember is when I went to ask for Teresa's hand in marriage. And apart from the fact he nearly took my arm out my socket with shaking my hand so far, I'd like to say congratulations, well done, Teresa. As a father now of a daughter and a son, but particularly of a daughter, I have the bond. I think I understand what it was. And as a father, all you want for your daughter is to be happy, for someone to love them, look after them, and treasure them. And I know that he knew I did that with Teresa, and when I look at Elizabeth and with Dominic, that's all I ever want for my children. So to Victor, thank you for allowing me to be part of your life. Thank you for Teresa and Craig, and thank you for welcoming me into your family. And
so this prayer was written by Mary, Queen of Scots, when she was imprisoned, and she didn't leave that prison. And I think the words speak to me of someone who was strong and kind and forgiving. And I think of Dad when I read these words, and it's a prayer that stays with me. So I want to share it with us all. Keep us, O God, from pettiness. Let us be large in thought, in word, in deed. Let us be done with fault finding, and leave off self-seeking. May we put away all pretences and meet each other face to face, without self-pity and without prejudice. May we never be hasty in judgment and always generous. Let us take time for all things. Make us grow calm, serene and gentle. Teach us to put in action our better impulses, straightforward and unafraid. Grant that we may realise it is the little things of life that create difficulties, and the big things of life we are as one. O Lord, let us not forget to be kind. Amen.
Amen.